All right. Hello, everyone. Good day. So, welcome to Wellington MuleSoft Meetup group. It's been a while since we host a meetup. So, apologies for that. We've been busy working. But yeah, here we are presenting to you a topic about the audit logs Splunk integration. So, thanks for joining, taking the time out of your busy day. So I'll just introduce first. I know where's my okay. So for those who don't know me, I'm Joy. I work as advisor, solution architect for DXC Technology. I've been in MuleSoft. I've been member of MuleSoft community for a while now. I co-lead the Wellington MuleSoft Meetup group, and I'm here to help Gopal explain the use case around the audit logs Splunk integration. And with me, it's Gopal. I'd like to say thank you to Gopal for stepping up and volunteer to speak in this meetup. By the way, it's his first time speaking in a meetup. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for him. And uh, first is there's no stupid question. So please make sure you ask away, whether you're new to MuleSoft or you've been in a MuleSoft space for quite a while now. Feel free to ask. So I'll hand it over to Gopal to introduce himself.
Hi, thanks for introducing me. Hi, Hal. This is Gopal, who's having close to 10 years of experience into IT. So from the beginning, I worked on integration space only. Before Mule, I worked on Oracle Server, OSB, Oracle FMW products. From last 3 years working on a Mule. That's it about me.
Cool. Thanks, Gopal. So that's our LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect to us in case if you wanted to um, do a follow-up questions regarding this session or if you just wanted to connect. Awesome. So next, hop into this slide. All right. So agenda for today it's just straightforward. So I'll discuss first the problem statement. In fact, I just prepared a video to explain that for a change. And then after that, I'm going to discuss, I'll sidetrack to audit logs query API of the Anypoint platform. That would actually a major part of the solution. And then I'll talk about the proposed solution for the problem statement. And then I'll hand it over to Gopal to do the demo. And then the last part is key takeaways. I actually didn't prepare anything for key takeaways. So I wanted to do a bit of a change this time. So I'll ask the viewers or you guys on, what do you think you've learned so far in the session. So yeah, be ready. Listen. All right. So next. All right. So I just wanted to be clear regarding the scope of the session and what's not part of the session. So the exclusions are the Splunk Enterprise Security due to the fact that what we're using here in the demo are all trial accounts. So we can't really use the ones that using by the customers for security reason. And then second is since we're using Anypoint platform trial account, we can't really request to the MuleSoft support or we don't have a capability to disable the Cloud Hub logs. But from the solution point of view, we'll give you the real life scenario and solutions. But from the demo point of view, it's just really to show you the capability of feeding the logs. But there's just a bit of a tweak there. And then lastly is the MuleSoft operational logs. So Take note that operational logs is different from the audit logs. So what we're going to talk about today is about the audit logs. Cool. All right. Yeah, it's just really slow. I don't know why. All right, so let's talk about the problem statement. So I like what I've said. I prepared a video here, and hopefully it worked because we've tested it earlier. Um, this video actually it's the end goal these of this work of this entire development task, but the major contributor of this entire solution is actually we're going to focus on the MuleSoft side, but not the end to end. All right. So let's talk about what we're trying to tackle here. So I'll just play this video. Sorry, I don't know, for some reason it's really slow. There you go.
Yeah.
What's the difference between using a SIM for security versus Splunk? Think of it this way. There's a boat on a never-ending journey. On the boat are boxes full of customer information, intellectual property, employee information, and much more of your company's valuable data. Above, weather systems that can churn up menaces in the sea below, which is full of threats. If you're responsible for the security of the data cargo on this boat, you do several things. You throw a set of hooks on a line attached to a rod and reel over the boat to catch threats in the sea before they get to your precious cargo. That's a SIM. You look at wind and weather gauges on the boat to check the weather. Think of that as threat intelligence data. And the hooks at the end of that rod and reel? Your out-of-the-box SIM rules. Here's the problem with only focusing on your rod, reel, and hooks. Some of the dangerous fish swimming by, threats to your data, don't fit any of the hooks you have put out. In fact, they swim past the hooks and attach themselves to the bottom of the boat looking for cracks in the hull. There's also a shipmate, an employee of the company, who has gone rogue. He tweets that he's dropping some of the data overboard at specific coordinates for a submarine in the know to vacuum up. He also tells the submarine to send up a few scuba divers to drill holes in specific spots in the bottom of the boat, causing data to leak. You don't know anything is amiss. None of your hooks has had a nibble. Your SIM will only detect what hits those hooks. Splunk allows a complete sonar perspective of the entire ocean of threats to this data, tracking movements of specific threats, but also adding context to those threats to protect the business. Employee behavior, online behavior, all of which might rock your business's boat. Only Splunk can peer into the sea of data looking for threats, bad behaving crew members, and combine external data to help you see coming storms. Use Splunk as your security sonar for unknown threats, monitor the odd behaviors of crewmates, then add in weather station information. You can decide which fish or submarines to go after. And that makes your boat of data and your business safer, smarter, and more successful. Splunk, a
Awesome. All right.
security sea change.
So I'll just jump quickly to the proposed solution so it's easier for me to explain. What you've watched is the concept of Splunk Enterprise Security here on the right side. We're not gonna demo this today, like what I've said in the exclusions, because of the limitation with the license. Like there's no trial account for the enterprise security Splunk. But what I'm trying to point out here is if your organization have SIEM, or they call it CEM requirement, potentially we could use the audit log query API. So this conceptual diagram demonstrates how it's going to work, or how MuleSoft would help to provide those information. So on the left side is an example of a deployment model running on cloud, which we called Cloud Hub. Now, inside of that, we've got EC2 instance or Cloud Hub worker where our API sits. So in this solution, we've proposed to come up with a custom API. And these solutions actually shows two things. One is operational logs and one is audit logs. So we're just going to focus on the audit logs. So these audit logs custom API would extract the information or retrieve the information via audit logs query API. So there are two ways how you're gonna retrieve the information or the audit logs. So I'm gonna talk. I will talk more about that later. But the two ways would be via UI, via access management UI. So when you log into your Anypoint platform, even in a trial account, you go to the access management, and then you'll see there is a table there where it shows all the actions or activities happening on the platform. So one way is to download that report and then use it somewhere else. So that would be a manual approach. The second approach is via audit logs query API, which you could automate. Now, these custom API, like what I've said, it retrieves the information from audit logs query API, and then from the custom API, we've configured the log4j to include the Splunk appender. So this is where you feed the logs to Splunk, so you configure that, and Gopal will gonna show that later. And then once it's configured, then it will push the logs to Splunk. And then in Splunk, you could configure index. One could be your operational log, and one could be your MuleSoft audit logs. And then once the data get into the Splunk team of your organization would then apply the rule sets via Splunk Enterprise Security. So additional information, the Splunk and Splunk Enterprise Security are two different licenses. So you could check that with your organization. Now, the rule sets, it compares to, like, say, the Anypoint governance. If you're familiar, there are rule sets there where it scans your API specification, and then it will tell you what would be the vulnerabilities. So it's the same thing with Splunk Enterprise Security rule sets, but it focuses more on, a cybersecurity part of the organization, whatever governance they have in place. So that's the high level solution diagram of this. Yeah. All right. So next is the sequence diagram. So like what I said, we've got the custom API, which we could call audit logs process API. And then we have a scheduler in it. So you could run it on a schedule basis. You could configure that via runtime manager, or you could expose at the same time REST endpoint to trigger that manually, or to be called manually by other, system, or integrate that with your other system. And then it will then call a post request to the access manager API, because you need to be authenticated. And then it will return a bearer token. So it's a generic way of authentication via Anypoint Platform API. And then once it's authenticated, then you would be able to subsequently call the audit log query API via post request. So I've put the endpoint there. And then I'll show you later how the audit log query API looks like when you see the documentation. And then it will return a response. So it's a collection. It's an array of
Uh,
per
log objects.
per objects. And then you could straight push that collection to Splunk, or you could either do a parallel for each. So you're gonna log it per object. So here, there's no Splunk call via HTTP request because that's already handled by your Splunk appender. So Gopal will show you the how it's going to be configured on the Splunk side, the HTTP event collector, which is one way of integrating with Splunk, and that will automatically feed the logs to Splunk. All right. So we don't have any questions, right? Okay. So
Noted.
let's go back. Where's my okay. Cool. So let's talk about now the audit logs of MuleSoft. So audit logs, these are the changes made by the users within Anypoint platform. Say I've logged in and I'm not the organization administrator. So all of the actions that I've made, I log in, I've changed the policy, I've deleted the policy, I stopped the API, I've deleted the API. All these actions are logged, and it will be shown in the audit log trail. So it provides a queryable history of actions performed within the Anypoint platform. So feel free to explore, sign up for the Anypoint platform account. Gopal will show you later how to sign up, and then just try do any activities there, and then you'll see there in the access management. And also, it keeps track of all users who have interacted with objects in the system and timestamps those actions. It also provides mechanisms for querying the set of users who have performed actions, the set of objects, actions performed, other endpoints that enable the querying of log entries. So this is applicable when you just wanted to see specific information that is required by the stakeholders. Otherwise, if it's via automation via API, then you could, leverage data weave there. So users who have the organization administrator permission or the audit log viewer permission on any point platform have access to both the UI and the query API. So if you're working in an existing MuleSoft implementation and you found out that you can't see the access management from your view, then that means that you don't have the required permission to see it. So if you wanted to explore, like what I've said, you could sign up. And then the audit logs, this is business group aware, which means you see only logs that are relevant to your own business group. So I'm not going to get into the detail of business group, but if you're familiar with that, then you wouldn't be able to see the logs of other business groups. So this is how the audit log query API looks like. So I've put the link there. You could just Google it, audit log query API MuleSoft, and then you'll see it's public. So you have the API summary there, and that sequence diagram that I've showed. I got the endpoints here, and feel free to add reviews here if you see any issues or anything that to be improved. So yeah, this is the audit log query API, and just so you know, there are other APIs that are under that's it's so Anypoint platform. There are underlying APIs. So if you just click the assets list, you'll see bunch of APIs there per component, and one of those is the audit log query API. All right, so let's talk about the contents because this is very important for the Splunk team. This is where they are basing, the rule sets. So we enable the data, they would do the check, and that's our part. That's the integration part. So we've got all of this information available from the audit log. So once you retrieve that information, if you just wanted to select a few of these, then feel free to do that via data weave. If you want to sort it, if you want to group it. All right. So it's important to know the limitation. For every implementation we do, we need to consider the limitations. So the rate limit policy for audit locker endpoint, this is per control plane. So if the client exceeds the rate limit for a given control plane, then the audit locker endpoint returns a 503 service unavailable. Status code until the limit expires. So MuleSoft recommends that users of the audit locker endpoint monitor their request rates and adjust their usage accordingly to avoid exceeding the rate limit. Note that exceeding the rate limit may result in the endpoint being temporary and unavailable. So how does it work? So if it's a schedule basis, then make sure it's within the allowed request per minute per IP. Depends upon what control plane or which control plane. So for us, it's US. Okay. So another thing to take note is the retention period of the audit log. So it has a retention period of 6 years. Um, Users who have audit log config manager and org administrator permissions can configure the retention period. So I've added the link there. So after this session, we will post these slide pack and also the video recording. And if there are any more details you require, just send an email. And then, yeah, download your logs periodically if you wanted to maintain your log files for longer than 6 years, or build a custom API to send audit logs to external monitoring tool like Splunk. I think that's the main reason why we are integrating our logs, or why the logs in MuleSoft needs to be integrated with the external monitoring tool because of the retention period. Yeah, so then from the other end, you could archive it, or you could store it to your data warehouse, for example. So when you configure a retention period, given that you have the required permissions, you can specify a retention period between 30 and 2,190 days. The date the new retention period takes effect must be a minimum of 7 days from the current date. Configuring a new retention period affects your organic. Cool. So I've talked about this. I'll pause there. Are there any questions so far? Yeah, don't be shy to ask, guys. Cool. All right. So we're the exciting part. I'll hand it over to Gopal for the demo. So I always like the idea of having the demo recorded, so that we could time box the session, and Gopal will just talk through it. Yeah. Okay, Gopal, over
Thanks,
to you.
Joy. Yeah. So as Joy said, so the solution we recorded it to save the time. So as we mentioned here, so the two prerequisites are important. One is so Splunk trial account or standalone, whatever we have, and then Anypoint trial account, so that we'll get a audit logs for the objects whatever we made changes. And then so to read that, though we have any pan platform access, so to get the logs we should have a audit log viewer audit log view role, or admin role to get the logs. Yeah, next slide please, Joy. Just a video only, no audio, so you can ask the questions later if you have anything.
You could explain while it's
Yeah.
playing.
So we are in trial. We created trial account. Now we are trying to logged into a Splunk cloud account, trial account, and now we are going to create the token for that to send the logs from our new lab to Splunk. So we have to go to settings, data inputs, HTTP event collectors. So here we have to create a new token. So we just give some name, meaningful name to that. Next, and here we have to select the source type, log4j or JSON. And then we have to select the index, which is the important one to search the logs in the Splunk. So once this created, we have to check whether this token is enabled state or not. If not, we have to go and enable it from the global settings. So just now we created audit log test. So we can go to global settings and click on the enable. Now the token is ready. So log into Anypoint platform, check the role, and then further. Access management, the roles. This is the important one. Either we should have audit log viewer role or admin role. So then only we can get the logs through the audit log query API REST endpoint. So now I'm showing the actual flow. Before getting to the flow, we'll look into log4j and then POM file, the dependencies we defined in the POM file. In the dependency, we've added this Splunk one. So I'll highlight here now. Yeah, this is the one of the dependency we have to add. and then we'll go to log4j to define the Splunk appender. So there we have defined the Splunk HTTP. Now I'm showing Splunk Log4j Cloud Hub appender and then Splunk HTTP. So there we are passing like, URL and the token. So the token is important one. So then only like, it will send to the right HTTP event collector location. This is the actual flow. So the flow where we have a scheduler based, we can define whatever time frame we want, and then we have three subflows. One is to get token and the query the logs, and then call to send the logs to Splunk. So here, we have to pass the username, password, or with the connected app anywhere with the multiple options. We can get the token to call the actual query log API. So query log API is like secured by secured one. So we should get the token before calling the actual API. So I didn't show the config. It is a simple HTTP request configuration. So we are assuming that we got a token and then preparing the time range. So there are multiple ways to send a request message. So the minimum was so at least start time, start date and end date, or we can specify the time also. So I want to so and so date and time. So or else we can just simply pass the start date and date. So it will get the logs between this time range. So as we said, the token we are passing in the authorization tab. So now we have audit log, query logs in place. So now we will call the actual Splunk flow. So as Joy mentioned, so it is a collection, right? So instead of sending one by one, so we can do a parallel for each to save the processing time. So here some values, it depends on the object, right? So some log will have some values, some we don't have value, null values. That's why we did a skip null on. This is the request message going to Splunk, each log object. If log4j enabled means like Cloud Hub logs enabled, so we can use log4j setup to send the logs to Splunk, or else we can use a Splunk HTTP request REST endpoint given by Splunk. So we'll deploy to Cloud Hub. As it is scheduler based, so it will run automatically, or if you want to run manually, so we can go to scheduler and the particular API and we can run manually also. So we'll go to the particular API and we'll run for do a manual run. So when this application runs, right, I mean the API, so it will get the logs from the whatever the objects we made, stop the application, start the application, publishing to the assets to exchange, when you create a specs also, whatever the objects, right, whatever the audit logs, the API Anypoint platform is capturing it. So and it will be storing in that those data we are capturing it and sending to Splunk. So if you could see, I'm just highlighting that the time frame when I recorded it. So the logs I mentioned, like flow start and then token the one subflow, and then get the log to send to Splunk. This is the time range we are setting up. And go to Splunk and then apps, search reporting. And then, so as Jai mentioned, even I mentioned that, index is the key to search the logs in the Splunk. So I'm mentioning index is a index search as a history. Okay. And if I do search, it will display the logs here. See, so what is a platform, what is the action did it, and who is the user, what is the timestamp it got created. This is the account, trial account I created, the Gopal B121. Now you can see the environment name. Yeah, that's it. So let me know if any questions. You can post in chat or you can ask.
Awesome. Thanks, Gopal. So the payload that you see right now, that would be used by the Splunk team to run their rule sets. So they
Yeah.
just need to figure something here using their Splunk enterprise security. Um, yeah, but we're not gonna discuss that definitely today. Um, cool. All right, so let's move on to the last part. Key takeaways. So, okay, Gopal, we have a question. Hi, Gopal. We can use New Relic also for capturing the logs, right? Does Splunk have any advanced features, or it also work as same as New Relic?
Uh, Kalyan, I'm not sure about the relic option. So I'm not sure, is it MuleSoft feature or not sure. But Splunk offers many features where it do reporting. It can send a alert email to the users. Let's say that certain message, if set a message, right, when such particular message there in the logs, so it will send automatically email to the users, defined users. And even I didn't explore other capabilities from the Splunk. So yeah.
Yeah, I think New Relic is Splunk competitor. So correct me if I'm
Mhm.
anyone from the chat. So if you have an existing New Relic implementation, have a look how you could integrate your logs. So basically, the MuleSoft part, whatever here in the solution is, that's it. How you retrieve the logs from via Audit Log Query API. So the next thing that you need to find out is how you're gonna integrate your logs to your New Relic. So if there's a Splunk appender or forwarder or any other type of approach there, have a look. I haven't done New Relic integration before, but I think that's a possibility. Or if New Relic expose a REST endpoint, you could use the HTTP request, or if there's a New Relic out of the box connector, have a look. Um, you could use that on the custom API. And the security part, like the rule sets, I'm not sure. Check with your New Relic team how they address those security requirements, how they apply those rule sets. All good? All right. Any more questions? Key takeaways. So I'll call three people from the chat to um, to tell what they've learned so far. So Christian, Christian is in the call, isn't it?
He was there. Should not.
He left. Okay, I'll call Bajan.
Thanks, Joy.
Hello, Pachi.
Hi. Yeah, I think it is a quite good session altogether. Definitely, uh, as operational logs are important, but on the other note, this audit logs are also very, very important, and because sometimes we need to get some details. And there are a lot some events specifically like creating some applications or removing some applications or who has get access to it. So from security point of view, some organizations would like to know what is happening with their platform. So I think that is quite good to utilize this feature, whatever you guys have displayed today. And even we can maybe little add on that where we can send some email to extend that functionality if any particular use cases, or we can define our custom rule set around these features, and that can be used to send some emails for any important security issues if you want to address or notify to people. So I think thanks guys, it's a very good session.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
Pachi.
Bhajan. Yes, like Splunk can send email alerts as soon as they, if a particular security concern email reaches to the Splunk.
All right. Okay, so we've got another question. What else option we have in market apart from Splunk? So we've got Elk, ELK,
ELK,
Kibana.
yeah, yeah.
We've got the um, what's this?
Logstash and the Kibana.
Sumo
Elastic
Sumo
Logstash.
Logic. Yeah, Sumo Logic and Logstash. Yeah, those are the other options that I know. All right. So, key takeaways. Who wants to volunteer? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes.
What have you
Hi, it's
learned
Francis.
so far? Yep. Go ahead, Francis.
Yes, I was impressed that there was a Splunk dependency that you could add in for sending data. I was aware of having Splunk appenders and sending to either HTTP or TCP listening endpoints, but I didn't realize there was a log4j dependency that you could pull in that you could define your payload stack. That was always one issue that I had in terms of sending either string logs or JSON logs to the JSON logger and knowing how to record the payload correctly into Splunk.
Yep. Correct. There's another as well, apart from the dependency at the bottom of the pom.xml. I think it's under repo, which is the Splunk JFrogs of something. um, yeah, we'll try to create a GitHub account for the Wellington Meetup group, and then we'll try to upload the source code there for you guys as reference.
Thank you. That would be very useful. My company is currently evaluating Splunk.
Yeah,
It also has used Datadog in the past.
yeah, yeah.
But
Even your operational logs, you could feed that to Splunk too, and then at the Splunk side, you could just split those via index.
okay, thank you very much.
No worries. All right. Thanks, Francis. Anyone else wants to tell? So, Sai, where can you find a recording session? So it's in the Wellington Meetup page. So just go to the event. We'll upload it hopefully by tomorrow.
Jay Sandhya asked, like, can we send SMS with Splunk? So I'm not sure exactly what is
Can we
the
please,
question.
what's the question? Sorry, can we send SMS?
Train connections to
Splunk.
send operations team. Okay, that is something like I think.
So still, based on retention period, we can go for Splunk, right? Joy?
At the Splunk side, that's gonna be their strategy, how they would do the archiving of the logs. That would be a
Yes,
decision. Yeah,
yeah, because universal API management, audit logging not suffice. all the data analytics and metrics requirements, right?
Yeah.
At this moment, there is a limitation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right.
so Splunk only drawback is consuming more workers. Okay, otherwise. We have Splunk connector, easy way to integrate with Splunk. But the workers, so much workers Splunk is consuming in my last project I have seen. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that one of the
Did you use the HTTP event collector too?
yeah, not HTTP, but logs appended through property file. Okay, Splunk connector, but
So yeah. Yeah. So there are different ways.
yeah, there are so many
To
ways now.
for J, the log forwarder, that's a different way to integrate with Splunk. With the HTTP event collector, Splunk is not doing anything. We are pushing the log to Splunk. So
Yes,
how you want to minimize the workload there is you would set your schedule into lesser time, say daily, you
yes,
know, of weekly or monthly, which again is an architectural decision to be made, right?
yes. Even if the big data or any kind of Hadoop data, most of the data coming out to Splunk, then more workers
Yeah,
required. So in that case, we need to schedule weekly or monthly.
yeah, you have to change the design if it's a bottleneck. And the drawback to Splunk is commercial implication.
Yes, yes. Yeah, my
Size.
um, yeah, my observation is now the integration with the Splunk is we have plugins and we have connectors, everything good.
Yeah, yeah, out of the box connectors, correct.
Yeah, only the way is if the MuleSoft can extend the retention period and provide the logging at Cloud Hub 2.0 Cloud Hub, that would be good, right? Rather than plug in Splunk, but maybe still need to groom, I think, universal API management there,
Yeah,
logging perspective.
yeah, something to feed back to other products team.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
that is
you for
something.
your input, Morale.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. I think a very nice session. We have very important logging for every project. Sounds like we had very nice session. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
thank you. All right, anyone else to provide their key takeaways?
Mm. Is there any chance that someone can say whether there is an opportunity, well, a way to delete events from audit log other than just limit the retention to 7 days?
I don't think so because audit logs are very critical. Um, we don't want to like do any modification there. I don't think they would do that.
Okay, that's just in order to confirm the situation. I've got another question. It's not really extremely directly related to audit log, but it's in some way, however, has kind of uh, uh, um, mm, uh, it has some tractions. Let's say. Let's imagine the situation when someone connects to the control plane, and just as you say, well, doing some activity using that will go to audit log, like for example, dropping everything. Just someone who are good password for organization owner and dropped everything from from configuration. First of all, so we will keep the the audit log, however.
Mm-hmm.
And second question, is there any chance to use audit log in order to configure in order to figure out how to configure back the configuration, because there is no way to restore it from backup.
I believe you could, but I'm not 100% sure. So if you remember, there's a payload as part of the content. So y- I'll just show quickly. So the payload, um, okay, it's slow. Um, so yeah, there's a payload placeholder as part of the object of the audit log. So if you go to the access management and then download that payload, you would be able to see the before and after. So what's the previous value and what has been changed. So that's part of the audit log content. You could use that. Short answer is yes. You could use that. Another option is it's a possibility as well that you could ask MuleSoft support to revert anything, say a RAML specification that has been deleted. I think that's a possibility. You could ask MuleSoft support to
So you can confirm that we can ask MuleSoft support to restore a configuration of a control plane from backup, because that's something that is actually contradictory with something that I received from them.
potentially. So you could write say inquiry to MuleSoft support, and depends upon what you're trying to revert here, right? But again, in audit logs, you would be able to see the before and after payload.
Very good, thank you. That was just an idea that I'm just trying to figure out how to imagine the restoration plan for emergency of when we have some attackers or some other issue like this, because again, we do not have any opportunity to to host control plane locally in order to be able to restore it from a local backup.
Yeah, yeah. So have a look. Test it using your trial account, or if you have organization Anypoint platform. Yeah, and then check the payload under the access management. You could download that, and you would see what has been changed. All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for that good question. So last one. Key takeaways. Who wants to volunteer? Otherwise, I'm gonna call someone. All right, Aman. Aman, you there?
Aman
Aman.
Jain. Aman Jain.
All right, let's go for Vamshi Krishna. Hello. Are you guys here?
I think guys, so they can unmute, right, themselves.
Hang on. Let me try. Um, okay, I'll set you
Yeah.
as
So
host.
Aman is saying that
Sorry.
Aman is not able to unmute himself.
So I've set him as a host. Still on mute. All right. I think we could wrap up. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. And let us know. There's gonna be a survey form after this session. So we really appreciate the feedback. We value the feedback. So if you could please take like 2 to 5 minutes of your time to provide that feedback. So thank you so much and have a great day ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for joining today.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye.
Just as you say, indeed.